In NASCAR, you can usually feel the weather before it hits, not the clouds over the grandstands, but the pressure systems that move through the garage when a season starts bending in an unexpected direction. Lately, that pressure has been building. Teams are working like teams always do, but the conversations sound different. The tone is tighter, the patience is shorter, and the questions are louder, because the sport is drifting toward a stretch where choices stop being theoretical and start becoming irreversible. The center of it all is Kyle Busch, a two-time Cup Series champion, a driver whose career has been defined by volume, wins stacked so routinely for so long that people stopped treating victory as an event and started treating it as expectation. For nearly 2 decades, he made the hardest part of this sport look repeatable. But the number attached to his current moment is the kind of number that changes how everyone speaks, even the people who don't want it to. Kyle Busch is now on a 100-race winless streak. Not a rough month, not a bad stretch of tracks, 100 Cup races without a win. And what makes it land even harder is that it's not just the longest drought of his career, it's a completely different universe from anything he has had to carry before. His previous worst winless run was 36 races, a span that stretched across 2016 and 2017. This one is nearly 3 times that. For a driver who built his name on closing, that kind of gap starts to feel like a wall. No wins through the rest of 2023, no wins in 2024, no wins in 2025. And now 7 races into 2026, still no win. That's the sequence that has carried the streak all the way to 100, and the weight isn't limited to the absence of trophies. The rest of the scoreboard is slipping too. Through the first 7 races of this season, Busch sits 24th in points. His best finish is 12th. There hasn't been a single top 8 finish yet, and that detail matters because it has never happened this deep into a season in any of his previous 21 years, including years that were already considered down by his standards. When a career is that long, trends rarely hide for long. If something is abnormal, it shows up in the history immediately. The broader context makes it feel even more like a line in the sand. In 2024, Busch's 19-year streak of winning at least one race in every season came to an end. That same year, he missed the playoffs for the first time since 2012. Then 2025 followed with another missed playoff run. Now 2026 is underway, and the early returns don't look like the start of a rebound. When a driver with Busch's resume is looking up at the point standings from 24th, it doesn't just create headlines. It forces everyone around him, team leadership, sponsors, competitors, even the driver himself, to decide what they actually believe is still possible. Because the season isn't the only clock running. Busch is in a contract year with Richard Childress Racing. He turns 41 in May, and the question hovering over the number 8 isn't simply whether he can break the streak, it's whether he will be in the Cup Series at all in 2027. The sport has seen drivers perform at a high level in their 40s, so age by itself isn't the point. That's why this weekend matters in a way that goes beyond a normal race preview. Their next event is the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway, and Bristol is not just another date on the calendar for Kyle Busch. He has won there 8 times, and those victories came on the concrete. If there is a track where muscle memory can turn into momentum, this is the one. If there is a place where a driver can take a streak that has become a national storyline and punch a hole through it, Bristol is the kind of place that has done that for him before. But the flip side is just as real. When a driver is expected to be dangerous at a certain track and doesn't deliver, the silence afterward gets even louder. The pressure is massive because the sport is already watching, and because the people who make the next contract decision will be watching even harder. So the immediate question is simple, even if the answer isn't, is Kyle Busch about to be stuck on 63 career wins, or is there still another chapter coming? And that brings us to the second storyline, where the discussion goes if the relationship between Busch and Richard Childress Racing doesn't extend beyond 2026. 5 destinations, 5 different types of futures, and each one says something different about what Busch wants, what teams need, and what kind of risk the garage is willing to take on a driver who still carries star power but is currently carrying a 100-race drought. The first possibility is the most straightforward, staying right where he is at Richard Childress Racing. Based on the numbers we've just laid out, it doesn't feel like the likely outcome, but it can't be dismissed outright. Even during a drought like this, there have been small bright spots. And if the team can find consistency, real week-to-week stability instead of occasional flashes, there is a scenario where Busch decides one more year is worth it. Still, in the current landscape, that option reads like a long shot, and everyone in the building knows it. The second possibility is Spire Motorsports, and this is where the logic starts tightening up. Spire has Carson Hocevar locked into the number 77 Chevrolet long-term, but beyond that, the situation isn't cemented. Michael McDowell is also 41. Daniel Suarez, who came over from Trackhouse Racing to replace Justin Haley, is essentially in a prove-it stretch. Suarez's career record is 2 wins across multiple top teams, including Joe Gibbs Racing and Stuart Haas Racing, and that context matters because it frames how unforgiving the cup level can be when expectations rise faster than results. The key connection, though, is Busch's history with Spire. After the 2023 season, he sold Kyle Busch Motorsports to Spire, and he has already been racing and winning with them in the Truck Series. That's not just a business link, that's familiarity. That's trust built in a different corner of the sport, carried into this one. And there's an additional layer that makes the fit feel like more than a short-term patch. Busch's son, Brexton Busch, is coming up through the ranks. For a driver thinking about legacy as much as competition, that kind of alignment can matter. It's a potential family play, not just a driver shuffle. The third possibility is the one that sounds wild until you remember what NASCAR history teaches: Hendrick Motorsports. The idea carries shock value because Hendrick is Hendrick, and because Busch's journey in the Cup Series began there more than 20 years ago. It's the kind of move that would immediately reshape the headlines, but it would depend heavily on what Hendrick decides to do with the Gnome 48 Chevrolet and Alex Bowman. Bowman has struggled, and he has also dealt with multiple health-related absences over the past few seasons. If Hendrick decides it needs a change, the next fork in the road is philosophical. Do you bet on youth, or do you lean into experience? And if the organization can't land someone like Connor Zilisch from Trackhouse Racing, the veteran route becomes easier to justify on paper. Even that isn't the only thread tying Busch to the Hendrick orbit. HendrickCars.com has already sponsored Busch in the Truck Series with Spire. That doesn't make a cup deal inevitable, and nobody should treat it like a guarantee. But in a sport where sponsorship alignment can open doors that performance alone can't unlock, it makes the scenario at least imaginable. Unlikely? Yes. Impossible? No. The fourth possibility is Legacy Motor Club, and this one carries an entirely different kind of intrigue because it reconnects Busch to Toyota, a straight return to Toyota with 23LF Racing. The team, co-owned by Denny Hamlin, would have made a lot of sense on paper, but that door looks closed. They are sticking with Riley Herbst in the number 35 for 2026, and Corey Heim is expected to take that seat in 2027. That means the obvious Toyota reunion spot isn't sitting open, and it's why the next few steps matter so much. Bristol is next. The Food City 500 is waiting. A track where Kyle Busch has been dominant is now the next test in a season that has already forced uncomfortable conversations. If he breaks through, the story turns in an instant. If he doesn't, the market around him keeps moving, the contract clock keeps ticking, and the 5 paths forward start to feel less like hypotheticals and more like decisions that will have to be made. Because in NASCAR, the past is respected, but it never protects you. The sport always comes back to the same demand: show it again.